This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, everyone. So I want to welcome you to our seminar today. Today, we're going to talk about mental health and how social media is affecting us. And also, I'm going to talk about some of the foods that can help your mood. So that's really great. You want to stay tuned. Now, this is part two of a two-part series. So last week we didn't record it, but we're just going to give a quick recap of what we talked about last week. So very, very grateful that we have Silvio Carnevale with us here today because he is a radio frequency developer. So he's working right at the front lines with radiation or understanding how radiation works and radio wave frequencies and all of that. So this is coming from someone who's got quite a bit of education and experience in this field. And myself, as a certified holistic nutritionist, I am going to tell you which foods are going to be great for your moods. But last week, he went through radiation and talking about, about your phone. So the things that I pulled from that, and Silvio can give a little bit more information if he likes, but we're just going to recap it real quick. Is that your cell phone gives off a ton of radiation. And I think we know that, but the reality is that it is creating, scientifically speaking and factual, a lot of damage to us. Because what radiation does is it goes inside our cells and it actually steals electrons, making our cells free radicals. And free radical damage is the heart of almost every disease. So that means that your cell is abnormal. So how do we fix that issue? I'm going to talk to you about that in a second, but that's where the issue is. So how can you make sure that in this world and day and age where, we don't leave the house without our phone, forget our wallet's on our phone, so we just make sure we have our phone all the time. Silvio gave us some really good warnings that your phone should not be in your back pocket. Your phone should not be underneath your pillow while you're sleeping. As long as that phone is on, it is emitting radiation, and you want to be at least a meter away from it. So at night, to put it on airplane mode. If you can't because you need it on, maybe you get called in the middle of the night from work or a loved one or something, leave it in another room and make sure the volume's up. But it is very important that we're not directly talking on our phone like this. And what was really cool that he was talking about antennas. So if there's antennas on your buildings, you do not want your apartment to be directly under that. That wired antennas, or wired headphones, I should say, are much better than the wireless, because now we've got antennas coming out of our ears emitting radiation again. So, the more technology gets more and more and more convenient, the reality is that our manufacturers aren't really caring about the amount of radiation, because we're not caring about that. We just want convenience. So those were some of the warnings that he gave. And very interesting for all of those conspiracy theorists out there. And I'm not saying I'm not one of them, but he was talking about the difference between, 2G, 3G, 4G, and dare I say 5G. So he was talking about that as well. And basically that 5G is not much more than 4G. And the reason being for the biggest issue is that we don't have the technology today to use 5G to its capacity. So it is pretty much functioning and acting and radiating just like a 4G. So interesting. So all of that being said, is those were some words of warning, words to the wise, those who will listen and hear. And just before I will just quickly share my antioxidant rich foods, Silvio, was there anything else you think that I'm missing just to recap from the seminar you did on cell phone safety? Is there any other thoughts or anything you want to mention?
I just wanted to clarify that 5G is being used in the United States at the higher frequencies that they are supposed to work at, but in Canada that auction hasn't happened yet, or at least if it has happened, it hasn't been implemented yet. So we're usually 1 or 2 years behind the US when it comes to this technology. But everything else, yes, it was a very good summary of the previous talk.
Great. Those are my takeaways. Yes, so it's kind of good that we're a little behind Canadians, but I know we have viewers from all over the world. So whether it's a 4G pole or a 5G pole, the reality is it does emit radiation. So you don't want to stand and use that as your leaning pole or to scratch your back with. And let's just be cautious. And let's make sure in this world where radiation is emitting everywhere, it's emitting everywhere, and some people use microwave ovens, you know, our pesticides on our foods, even if it's organic, there's some form of pesticides that can create free radical damage. You know, just the pollution in the air, but especially our cell phones and our microwave ovens are pretty top. So I'll just quickly share with you guys just the top foods that are antioxidant rich, because that's important. So as far as antioxidants go, I just want to remind people that when radiation comes into the body, it's stealing it's causing free radical damage. So that means electrons, a stable cell has an equal number of protons and neutrons. Okay, so positively charged and, neutrons are neutral, and electrons. So that's generally what a healthy cell looks like. But if we lose an electron, that cell becomes unstable and it starts acting like a radical all around your system, and it can create disease, cancer, diabetes, high blood pressure. All of these diseases at a cellular level are started from free radical damage. So I just want to share real quickly that foods that are rich in color are generally foods that are high in antioxidants. And when you eat foods that are high in antioxidants, these foods, when digested, the antioxidants actually donate electrons to free radical cells, making them normal again. It's not a radical. So this is just a list of your top high antioxidant foods. And if you've noticed, these are all plant-based. Isn't it amazing? It's the plant-based diet that I have been preaching for years that really helps the body. And last note, I just also talked in more detail, but just giving you a quick summary about if you saw on that list, you didn't see a lot of green vegetables. So are green vegetables not high in antioxidants? I thought they were great for fighting diseases. Yes, they are, because they have what's called phytonutrients. Phytonutrients, it's like the precursor to the antioxidant. It like superpowers these antioxidants. So eating tons of leafy green vegetables are very important for you. So big salads every day. As far as your collards go and your kale and cabbage, make sure you cook those vegetables because they're a little hard to digest raw. So that's basically what I had shared with everybody when it comes to the cell phone safety. So today is part 2 of cell phone safety. We are now talking about mental health, and really Silvio's got some really amazing and interesting and factual information on what social media, internet, and all of that is doing to our mental health. And I will wrap it up after he's finished talking. I will wrap it up and talk to you guys about foods that can actually boost your mood. All right, so without further ado, Silvio, I'm going to ask, I think you can pull up your PowerPoint, and away you go. And let's hear from you, Silvio.
Thank you, Carolyn. So I need to share my screen.
Yes, because I think I took the screen over, so now you can share your screen.
Yeah, I think you have to make me the presenter first.
I didn't do that again. Yeah. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. There you are. I took the controls back from you.
Okay, so now share and let me know when you see the PowerPoint.
Yep, excellent. You're right there.
Okay,
I'm not going to distract you guys. I'm going to let Silvio take it over from here. And I will be back to you in a few short moments with foods for your moods.
Thank you for the introduction, Carolyn. That was a good summary of the previous talk on cell phones and radiation and basically the physical effects of cell phones. Now Now we're going to be looking at the mental effects of cell phones. So all those things about radiation, that's important, but the mental side is also important, and has nothing to do. This has nothing to do with radiation. It's a different kind of issue. So we'll be looking at social media, and first of all, how it all started, how it began, and then the relationship between social media and children. They are more vulnerable. We're going to be looking at that. We're also going to be looking at social media acting like a drug. We'll see a little bit, not in detail, but on the surface, a bit how social media can behave like a drug. Then we'll be looking at the business model of social media and try to understand why they do the things that they do. And finally, how they control us and how they end up generating and spreading fake news, and especially in a pandemic age. Some of this information that I have here, maybe 20–30% of this information was taken from this Netflix documentary titled "The Social Dilemma." If anybody has access to Netflix, I strongly suggest watch this documentary. There's a lot of good information that are coming from people that actually work for social media, like Google, Facebook, all these companies, people that have quote unquote repented from the things that they have created. They didn't realize that what they were creating would have such a devastating effect on the social, basically on mental health. And so they're coming out and talking about against this, and how there should be more regulation to just to try to protect, especially children, but also the general population. So with that being said, let's look at how it all started. Short message service started back in the 90s. It was really cheap and easy to use, and it was convenient because it could replace a phone call. It was quick. It would arrive at the other end almost instantly, and usually guarantees that it's not ignored because somebody would quickly look at his cell phone and see the message. Unlike email, which sometimes would sit unread for weeks. It was a little bit slower to type on the cell phone. I still remember back in the 90s when I was texting a lot. You would have to type 3 times sometimes, type 3 times on each number to get a letter to appear. So it would take a while to write this 160 character message. Eventually, technology advanced, and better feature phone came out, and people were able to actually connect to Yahoo Messenger and ICQ in the first decade of the century. It was becoming more efficient to communicate and stay connected. And eventually this evolved into the social media that we know today, which started with MySpace and then evolved into Facebook. And it's really with the advent of smartphones that people started to become able to participate in social media a lot more frequently. Like anywhere that you go, you have internet on your phone, and then you're able to connect to, now is Facebook, because MySpace is out of business. All right. So what is the connection between social media and children? Why do we have to be particularly careful with them when it comes to social media? Well, first of all, social media is widespread these days, and children grow up, some of them using it from young ages, even below 10. They already have their Facebook accounts and or other platform. Facebook is not the only one, by the way, but I'm just mentioning Facebook because it's the largest one out there. And so the younger generation is particularly attracted to social media because that's how they keep in contact with their peers, and that's how they can get to communicate with them, etc., etc. However, they are particularly unaware of the dangers of social media, and they are particularly vulnerable because of this. They don't understand this principle that what happens online stays online forever. So whatever you type or any message that you send gets stored in basically in data centers. That's usually in cold places, sometimes up in the north, or sometimes underwater. There's these huge arrays of computers with hard disks. These are data centers that store terabytes over terabytes, petabytes of data. So basically, text is very easy to store. 1 megabyte of data can hold 400 pages of writing. So basically, a 400-page book can fit in 1 megabyte of data. So this is 1 megabyte, not 1 gigabyte. 1 gigabyte can hold 400 books with 400 pages each. So you can imagine that text is very easy to store. And as a result, anything that is text-based gets stored forever. You may delete it, you may think that it's gone, but the companies, they do keep a copy there just in case law enforcement agencies ask to see what had happened, what you wrote in the past. So these messages, they get stored there forever. They don't get deleted. Videos and audio files, this is a different story. They tend to take up much more space, and it's practically impossible to store all the videos, all the video calls that are happening. So those things, they don't get stored, but the text messages, they do get stored. So you have to be particularly careful, because what you said one day when you were 12 years old may be used against you when you're 25 years old in court. A judge can request for all records pertaining to you, and something that you said today, you may be young and you may not think much, and you can say something stupid that can be used against you later on in court, and you may end up in jail because of this. All right, so social media can compromise your future, and we have to be careful with that. Even adults, we have to be careful what we write there, but especially younger children, we have to particularly protect them. Right? I would say we need to avoid letting younger children use devices at all. Pretty much anybody under 12 years of age, they should not have access to a tablet or a smartphone. Right? This is my principle. This is how I raise my children. Eventually, once they turned 13, 14, they started using devices in school. So they do it in their laptop so they can do their homework, and they're, especially now with online schooling, is even more important. But until they were 13, 14 years of age, they didn't have access to devices. And still, you know, even at an older age, teenagers, I say no for social media. They don't have Facebook accounts, for example. They're 15 and 16 right now. And still no Facebook account, no social media account, right? And if we look at the example set by some of the leaders in the industry, like, for example, Bill Gates, he doesn't let his children get cell phones until they turn 14 years of age. Bill Gates, by the way, was the CEO of Microsoft, just to remind you, right? Evan Spiegel, which is a Snapchat CEO currently, he has a limit for his children of 1.5 hours per day on devices. And you all know Steve Jobs, he didn't let his children use iPads. So I'm wondering why the creator of iPads and iPhones, he didn't want his children to use those devices. I'm just wondering, why could that be? Could it be that he was aware of the danger that these devices would represent for his own children? To continue, Sundar Pichai, who's the CEO of Alphabet. Alphabet is the parent company of Google, by the way. He has a 11-year-old that has no cell phone and has a strict time limit for TV watching, a certain number of hours per day. So basically, you can see that the same people that want you to use technology, they are aware of its dangers and they're preventing their own children from using it. So they must be knowing something that maybe we don't, or they don't want to tell us, right? So for that reason, I say if you have children, try to avoid all tablets, phones under 12 years of age. Maybe have a phone for calls when they go to school if you want to keep track of them, but that's about it, right? I think this is the safest way to deal with children. And also, if they're older than 12, I think we have to be really careful with social media. There's many dangers, and if they have to use social media, let them at least know what the dangers are, right? So we're going to look at social media acting like a drug. Well, ideally, we shouldn't need social media. We can live without it, right? I grew up without social media back in last century. So we don't need it. However, once you start using it, it becomes something that we feel like we really have to use it, right? So we have this, as human beings, we have this need to connect with other people. We have the need to talk and to be socially active, and especially when we're in lockdown like we are now and we cannot meet people, it's even more important for us to have access to basically be able to talk and socialize with other people. However, this is becoming like a drug. Basically, using social media directly affects the release of dopamine in the reward pathway in our brains. So it's almost like whenever we're uncomfortable, we feel lonely, we're uncertain or afraid of something, it's almost like we have the social media like a pacifier, digital pacifier for ourselves that we just take and and we calm down by just playing with it. And it can become addictive. And also these social media companies, they are not helping the situation. They actually like it. For example, I don't know if you've noticed, when you watch videos on Facebook or YouTube or other platforms, when the video ends, there's another video that just continues playing. So they don't want you to go away. They want you to keep you there. So that's why they have this autoplay feature, just to keep you there longer and longer. And we're going to see why they do that. They have very good reasons for doing that, but it's not a good thing. So we have to be careful. We should not let it control us, because it can be addictive, and it's behaving like a drug. Now, it has been observed that hospital admissions in the US for non-fatal self-harm has gone up significantly in the past 10 to 15 years. For example, for girls that are older teenagers, the number of admissions has been increasing by about 62% in the past 10, 15 years. And the girls between 10 and 14 years of age, their admissions has gone up 189%. Also, suicide rates have also gone up for the same age group, for 10 to 14 years old, 151%, and for older girls, 70% more suicide cases, right? So there must be a reason. There must be a connection between social media and this increase in suicide and hospital admissions. Now, these numbers are for girls. It's the same issue for boys. Okay, girls are not more susceptible than boys to these issues. Just that this research was done on girls. There's another study that was published in the Washington Post that basically they found out that children between 8 and 12 years of age, they spend about 4 hours and 44 minutes on screen time, and this is not counting screen time for school or work, right? This is just screen time for fun. 4 hours and 44 minutes a day, and for teens it's 7 hours and 22 minutes a day. These are averages, right? So what do you think of these numbers? Does it make sense to spend almost a third of your day, 7 hours and 22 minutes is almost a third of your day, just doing nothing on a device, just watching pictures on Facebook or talking or whatever? This is not counting, again, this is not counting screen time for school, work, or study, right? This is just fun time on the screen. So there's 24 hours in a day. 7.5 hours you're spending on social media and watching videos or whatever. That only leaves like 16.5 hours in a day, of which 9 hours you have to sleep. So there's only like 8 hours left. And in those 8 hours, you have to eat, you have to go to school, you have to do homework. So pretty much there's no time for exercise, outdoor activities. Any free time that you have is spent on this. So this is really unhealthy. And as a result, there's been a study published in Preventive Medicine Reports that the conclusion was that teens that spend more than 7 hours a day on screens, they are more than twice as likely to experience anxiety and depression than those spending less than 1 hour per day. So there's a more than 2x increase in the risk of anxiety and depression when you spend more than 7 hours a day. And by the way, 7 hours a day is the average, right? So we could say that half of the teens, they spend at least this amount of time on their screens, and so they are more than twice as likely to experience anxiety and depression. So this I have the link here to the publication, although we're not going to look at it, but just to see that this is coming from real research. This is not fake news, right? Now let's look a little bit at, I just previously mentioned why Facebook and YouTube and all those companies, they like to have you spend more time there, and they have autoplay always on by default unless you put it off. And my experience is that every time I put autoplay off, after a few months it comes back on somehow. So they have an interest in this. Why? Well, first of all, who is the real customer of social media? As far as I know, I have never paid for Facebook or any other platform like YouTube. It's pretty much free. So if I'm not paying for it, then who is paying for it? Because whoever is paying for it, they are the real customers, right? So definitely, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. The customers are the advertisers. They are the ones that are paying for the service. They are paying for these platforms to show ads to us, and we are the product. We are being sold to advertisers. our time online is being sold to them, not just to show us ads, but also to see what we're doing, how we're behaving, and what our interests are, so that eventually in the future, we're going to be targeted with more ads, right? So these companies, they actually build models that predict our actions. And then once they have those models, they try to control our actions because they know what we are likely to do. We may not do it, but they know what we are likely to do. And so they push us to do certain things so that it can bring more profit to them. So basically, this is how these tools, these platforms, they have been designed. This is they're doing exactly what they have been designed for. This is not something that is not being planned. Nobody really thought that it was going to end in this at this point. Nobody really planned any of these consequences. However, the profits, they need to be they have to keep coming in, so the music has to keep playing. So now that we got to a place where companies like Google, YouTube, and Facebook and other companies, they make billions from your attention. They can't just say, okay, what we're doing is evil. You know what? We're going to stop and we're gonna just close down the business. No, they're not going to do this because there's shareholders, lots of people that are interested in getting their profits. So they just keep doing what they started. It's not what they were thinking was going to happen in the beginning, but this is what's bringing the most money in. And so now they are behaving like they try to control our actions. They try to predict what we're going to do so that the money keeps coming in. So it's almost like once these companies have been released in the wild, they kind of take a life on their own. They become difficult to control. It's not impossible, but profits dictate that they have to continue operating this way. So my question to you today is, would you really let your child be controlled by any of these companies for their own profit? My answer is no. Definitely, I would not let my child be controlled by them, and I don't want them to know my behavior or my child's behavior, right? So I prefer to keep my things private, and I'm not interested in their business model, right? So how do they control us? Well, first of all, as I mentioned earlier, they build models about our behaviors, and they can kind of predict what our interests are. They know what we're doing. They know the places that we visit. They know our habits. They basically try to then serve us the things that we like, because they know that we are more likely to buy if we see something that they know that we're interested in. However, there's one issue with this. Basically, they know what we're interested in, and so they keep serving us the things that we like. So this is not only about buying things, advertising. This is also about basically showing us the content that we're interested in. And this is not really a good idea, because that means people end up only reading things that they agree with. And so they miss the other side of the medal. So instead of having a balanced view of the things that are happening in the world, we end up having this unbalanced view of reality. We're only getting to read and hear the things that we agree with. And so by being unbalanced, we end up being radicalized, and we end up believing that the other side is all wrong, and that we know it all. And so we tend to have this view of us versus them kind of in society. So basically this leads to a polarization in society, and this is all caused by basically the way social media serves us the things that they want us to see. So for this reason, I think social media has a very, very strong power on society as a whole, and there needs to be more regulation. Basically, they should not be let to do whatever they want, because they only care about one thing. They only care about profits, and we are the product. We are not the ones paying for it, right? So all they care about is their customers, which are the advertisers. So they need to be regulated such that they do not control what people end up doing, right? One side effects of this is that fake news has been spreading a lot on social media, especially recently. There was a research from the MIT. They found out that basically fake news on Twitter, it spreads 6 times faster than true news. So once you release a bit of fake news, it takes 6 times the effort to try to counteract the effect of that fake thing. And it's not because we just want to spread fake news, but it's just because false information makes the companies more money than truth. And because it makes them more money, they are more likely to try to push it forward and try to capitalize on that. And also, truth is boring. As human beings, you know, we tend to like a lie, a beautifully crafted lie, better than a boring truth. And social media is just following this. Basically, social media just created a system that biases towards false information because this is what people want to hear. And as I mentioned earlier, everybody that you see in your news feed sounds just like you because this is what you're interested in. And so you only get to read things that are in agreement with what you basically believe. And it turns out there's been science tells us that once you're in this kind of state where everything that you see agrees with you, you are more easily manipulated because now everything makes sense. Everything is what you agree with. And so you're a lot easier to control when you're in this kind of state of mind. It's almost like being manipulated by a magician. So how does the social media, how is it able to control, basically, to manipulate you? Well, basically, this is not happening manually. There's nobody behind your Facebook browser trying to control you directly. But basically, there's algorithms, artificial intelligence algorithms that are used to control what you see. They have been programmed, again, to maximize profit. So this is the only thing that they care about is to maximize profit. It doesn't matter how that happened. And as a result, we've gone from the information age to the disinformation age, where we end up reading a lot more things that are fake than true. And Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, he was asked, what is the solution for this? And his answer in his own words was, so, well, long term, the solution here is to build more artificial intelligence tools that find patterns of people using the services that no real person would do. So his solution to this issue is to create more artificial intelligence tools to basically be able to find more patterns of what people do and to be able to actually in the end to be able to control people even more. So they're kind of framing this as a problem that they're well equipped to solve with more artificial intelligence, but we know what this means. We know where this is going to end. They're actually going to use these additional artificial intelligence tools to control us even more, to increase their profits even more. Finally, fake news in the pandemic age. These are I have a list here of a few things that were circulating during this pandemic, just to see what kind of things circulate on social media. And these are all basically this is all false. What I have on this slide. For example, drinking water can flush coronavirus from your system. That was one thing that was said earlier in the pandemic. This is not true. Drinking water is very healthy for you. It will make you better able to fight an infection. It's not going to flush coronavirus from your system, but it will actually help your body be stronger, and not just to fight infection, but also in many different ways. Drinking water is good for your health. People are asking, can you get corona by eating Chinese food? Well, just because it came from China, it doesn't mean that eating Chinese food you're going to get corona. There's good Chinese food and there's bad Chinese food. Like in every place in the world, there's junk food and there's good food. So it's the same with Chinese food. There's no getting corona just by eating Chinese food. Eating sea lettuce to prevent COVID. That's not true. You cannot prevent COVID by eating sea lettuce. However, by eating a balanced vegetarian diet, your immune system will be able to better withstand COVID and any other infection. That is true. Another piece of fake news is that to test for COVID, all you have to do is hold your breath for 10 seconds. So if hold your breath for 10 seconds, if you can do it, that's a good COVID test. Well, this is not true. It was also said that Putin released 500 lions in Moscow to basically keep people indoor during the lockdown. Again, this is hilarious. This never happened, of course. We also know some political leaders in some countries not far from our country, they suggested to inject disinfectant or drink bleach to kill the virus. Actually, this works. Injecting disinfectant or drinking bleach will kill the virus. It will also kill the person. So, yeah, it does work, but it has some unintended secondary consequences. So I would strongly suggest not to do that. Also, UV light kills the virus. Definitely, UV light will kill the virus on any surface. However, that doesn't mean that we can irradiate our body with UV light. It will not kill the virus that is inside the body. However, it can cause skin cancer. UV light is dangerous. So, as it kills the virus, but definitely we cannot use it to kill the virus inside the body. Also, in the political realm, it was said that the coronavirus was invented by the opposing party so that it can win an election. And then this is even crazier. I heard that people saying that COVID vaccines, they contain microchips and then reach the brain so that they can control you. And this is activated through 5G antenna. So once you get the vaccine, you actually get those microchips going into your brain, and they will all get activated by 5G, and they will change your personality. This is definitely not true. Also, I heard that COVID vaccines are the mark of the beast, and that if you get vaccinated, you will face eternal damnation. Well, these are all things that have absolutely no connection to reality, but these are the sort of things that circulate on social media and that get spread much faster than you can spread the truth. That is, again, that basically the truth about these things will not circulate as fast as these false pieces of information. So social media can be dangerous, it can be useful. You can use it to keep in touch with family and friends, especially during COVID times. However, there's a lot of dangers associated with it, and I strongly suggest to avoid being controlled by it. And I hope this information in this presentation will help you be aware of these things. Be aware that you are actually not the customer of social media. You are the thing that is being sold. So don't let yourself be sold like this, and control what you do. Don't let them control you. Right? So I hope this is useful for you to understand the dangers of social media, and for adults and especially for children, and to exercise caution in using it. Caroline, back to you.
Thank you, Silvio. Excellent, amazing information. And I'm sure a lot of it wasn't completely brand new to you, but seeing it in this format starts to make you go, for those of the children of the 80s and 90s. So yes, Silvio, thank you very much for sharing this information with us, reminding us that, you know, it's, again, as we talked about at the beginning of the seminar, convenience is one thing, but it's become a whole lot more than that. So I gotta grab my water, guys. Give me one second, one sec.
And I just mentioned that drinking water is very good for your health, so it's definitely important to drink water. It will not flush coronavirus from your body, but it will keep you healthier. So go ahead and drink your water.
All right, thank you for that commercial break. Sylvia, I hope you sang everybody a song while I was gone. All right, so I'm going to talk now just very quickly about foods that actually can affect our moods. It's incredible what foods can do to us. So I'm going to just share my screen here. All right, folks, so foods for your mood. For sure, depression is real. And as we heard from Silvio, the things that we watch, the things that we do, the amount of time that we spend not properly socializing. We were designed by God to be social beings, to talk face to face, to touch, to feel. That this is how we were designed. And when screens go in front and emojis make our smile and share our emotions, it actually becomes detrimental to our bodies. So the reality is that the way that we're living for sure has an effect on our mental health. But for some people, there are other factors at play. And so that's what I want to share with you today is that tryptophan, which is a precursor to serotonin, that's the hormone that helps to fight depression, because some people are also just through genetics or improper eating habits have become low in serotonin. So understanding that serotonin, the hormone, is produced in the daytime. The same gland produces melatonin at nighttime. This is very important, folks, extremely important. Why? Because another way in order to help you produce serotonin outside of eating foods that are rich in tryptophan, which I'll show you, is by having a lot of light. So when you go outside and the sunlight hits your eyes, it stimulates your pineal gland, which is right behind your eyes. And then your pineal gland will produce serotonin and you will feel so happy. So it's not just that the sun is shining, although that has a big factor to play, but your pineal gland is being stimulated. So that's why a lot of people who have depression, some of them get those lights so that they can get that, stimulation. Nothing is like the real thing, but that does help. So also you may be low in vitamin D. So having a vitamin D supplement through the winter is also important when we're not getting the sunshine. But what I also wanted to share with you is that in the daytime, our bodies are supposed to have the light so that serotonin is produced. At nighttime, as it becomes dark and there's no light stimulating the pineal gland, the body produces melatonin. So go through with me with your imagination that it is getting dark outside and we come into our house and what do? Boom, we turn the lights on. But back in the day when there's no electricity, when it was dark outside, it was dark inside. So people slept really well. The other thing is that not only do we turn the lights on, so that's not a direct stimulant, but a little bit, but then we jump in front of a computer or a TV all night. And then we go to bed and our body is so stimulated with light that we can't shut down. So what do, folks? We pick back up our iPad and we start looking at things and having the light flashing again at our eyes. And we're like, oh, I can't sleep. So this is a problem. We need to create bedtime routines. We need to allow the body to start producing melatonin. It's totally fine to read a book where the light flashes at the book. That is a completely different effect on the body. So we should be creating a bedtime routine where an hour before bed, we shut down all our screens. We're not looking at the television. We take a hot shower, we read a book, play a game with the kids if you want to, or whoever is in your home, or if you're by yourself. But we should be doing stuff outside of screens. And then outside of what I just shared, it's important to eat foods that are rich in tryptophan. So what is rich in tryptophan? I know that there's a lot of information out there against the use of soy products, but I think that through my studies, I would agree that there are certain health issues that shouldn't have soy, like if your thyroid's under functioning, or if you right now have a high level of cancer, soy might not be the answer, although there's tons of flavonoids and also wonderful natural cancer fighting properties found in soy. But of all things, it's super high in tryptophan. So the joy of soy is very real, but you want to eat soy in its whole food form as far as possible. So edamame, soya beans, tofu is fine, and so is an organic soy milk. But here's the thing, your soy needs to be non-GMO. So very important that it's not genetically modified. Otherwise, it can create issues. And that's really found almost anywhere. So the next food is all your leafy green vegetables. We also talked about that. Hey, they're also high in antioxidants. Amazing. But your leafy green foods, so I don't recommend you start having your kale raw and your collard greens raw and your dandelion raw. That's really hard to digest. You will not cook the tryptophan out. Cook those foods, but eat your lettuces, maybe some shaved cabbage sometimes raw, but your cruciferous foods are hard to digest raw. So stick to your easier to digest greens and have tons of your leafy greens and cruciferous cooked, but add them to your meal, which also brings me to my next topic, which is cruciferous. So that's your cabbage, your broccoli, your cauliflower, kohlrabi. All of these are wonderful. Brussels sprouts. Do you see those hiding in there? They are so good for you. I mean, yes, loaded with phytonutrients so that they can help to fight cancers and other free radical damage, but also really great source of tryptophan. And your kidney beans, your pinto beans, your navy beans, and your lentils. Folks, is there a theme happening here? Are all of these foods rich in tryptophan, plant-based foods? No way. Should we be following a plant-based diet? Yep, I definitely would say yes, 110%. So yes, your kidney, your pinto, your navy, your lentils, all very rich in tryptophan. And finally, and these are my top tryptophan foods, doesn't mean others don't have it, but asparagus and pumpkin seeds, not roasted, not salted. Very, very, very good. And also a great source of zinc, which is important to your pumpkin seeds, and even a good source of protein. So all of that being said, whoops, I also want you to understand that the more raw food we have in our diet versus cooked food, so a big salad before your sweet potatoes and your chickpea dish or your tofu dish, make sure that you're having that nice big salad. A lot of us feel low energy and our blood's congested because we just don't have enough fresh food in our diet, and our brain, which is 75% water, needs a lot of water, concentrated foods, or a lot of water, period. So making sure that you're having your big salads, your big bowl of fruit in the morning, and lots of water through the day can also help improve your moods, believe it or not. And you may not want to hear this, folks, but caffeine is a major problem for moods. So I think that I want to make sure that you can see this slide. 1 second. I'm going to reshare this slide. There we go. So caffeine's detrimental because it brings your moods up and down. It's a drug. So you have the, whether it's coffee, whether it's black tea, whether it's green tea, it is a problem. So make sure that you are not, especially for those that have anxiety, caffeine is the plague to you. So make sure you are not having caffeinated products. The darker the chocolate, the higher the caffeine, folks. It's very important to know that. Doesn't matter how many flavonoids are in them, it's a problem. So where do we go from here? Well, folks, if you do, for whatever reason, need any more information than what we shared with you today, you can definitely give us a call. Go to our website. Our consultations are not free anymore, but they're only 35 bucks. So get online and definitely request your consultation. You can fill out your intake form and someone will get back to you within 48 hours. And also, maybe it is time to clean up. Maybe we have to go through that caffeine withdrawal. Maybe it is time for a juice cleanse. We do that. We do the meal programming. We do it all if you feel like you need more help than what we've shared with you today. And I also just want to remind you that we do free seminars a lot, at least once a week. Plus, we're on Facebook, on Instagram, and we have a wonderful YouTube account in which you probably are watching this video through. So subscribe to us, follow us on social media. But again, recommending, you keep it to a minimum and don't use it at night. And also, if you go to our website at EnergyShackJuiceBar.com, you can also sign up for our newsletter and our emails, and we will keep you informed of the specials that we're having. And anytime we are having any challenges or giveaways or have a new menu item. So here is hoping that you will take this information, pull back from the screen time, and increase your plant wonderful intake foods, and it will keep your moods nice and steady, smiles all the time, lots of joy as you start to make some real changes for your health. Please feel free to make if you put any comments underneath, I will get back to you, or just reach out to me on your website if you do need to set up that nutritional consultation. Have a good night, folks.